right. Well, welcome everyone. Good morning. Thank you for coming out and joining us. Hopefully, this is the end of your long work week and everyone can move off into a nice long weekend. So again, thank you for coming out. And we've got a couple of guests with us this morning. Before I introduce them, just a little bit of housekeeping. We are going to keep everyone muted. And if you do have some questions, go ahead, type those in the box. We're going to try to answer some of the most frequently asked questions that we're getting from everyone over this last week or so. But what we'll try to do is, of course, get to everyone who asked a question in the chat box or Q&A section. And at the end, we will try to open it up for some discussion. And just remember to be respectful of all of our attendees. If you have a question, please ask that, mute yourself, and then we will try to answer those to the best of our ability. So with that, we'll go ahead and kick this off and get started. I'll let our two guests introduce themselves. So Dustin, maybe if you want to get started.
Thanks, Jason. Really appreciate you putting this together. My name is Dustin Van Dyne. I'm the Director of Sales for HAP, Health Alliance Plan, and I'm also the past president of MDHU, or a local chapter for Detroit of NAHU.
Good morning, I'm Lisa Maxwell. I am the current and future president of Madahu MDAHU, and I will be piggybacking off Dustin and letting you know what is going on.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for joining us. Obviously, this is an extremely important topic. So, we wanted to bring on individuals who are well-versed in some of the new rules, as well as having direct discussions with CMS. So we appreciate you being here with us. My name is Jason McClellan with Insurance Advisors Direct. Again, we are a full-service FMO with our goal is to simplify your success in the senior life and health space. So this is just, again, part of the ongoing education that we put on for agents. And again, being this is a extremely hot and relevant topic that we all need to understand and be prepared for, we felt like this was extremely important to bring to you as much information as we know at this time. And you will notice there are some things we may not be able to answer directly. We may talk about what we expect, or maybe our best guess, but there is not a lot of detail or clarification from CMS at this point, but we'll try and do our best. So again, we appreciate all of you joining us today, and we're just going to keep this, again, there's no PowerPoint. This is just an open discussion between the three of us to you, and hoping we can best answer your questions. So with that, why don't we get started? Dustin, if maybe you can walk us through what are kind of what we know now. What has CMS introduced? What are the new rules that they are telling us we need to be prepared for on 10/1?
Yeah, thanks, Jason. You know me, I read all 199 pages of it, so no life here. But so I did read into it, and I'm going to kind of start off by the reasons why this is coming out. Like I said, I think that's important to understand, and then I'll go through like the quick briefing of it, and the interpretation, at least how the carriers are interpreting it, and then we'll kind of go from there. So this regulation is the response of CMS trying to handle the call centers that I'm sure every one of you have been experiencing issues with your clients on. And to give you some numbers, in 2020, CMS had 15,500 CTM complaints, so about 15,000. In 2021, just so you get an idea of the change, they had 40,000 CTM complaints. And now in the regulations, they don't come out and say it's because of the call centers. However, you as agents and myself know it is certain call centers. And I'm not going to say all of them. There's some really good ones out there, and they're doing it the right way. But obviously, we are seeing a lot of the bad ones that are cold calling, enrolling people without their permission, and many other things. So CMS comes out with this reg as their quick approach to fix it. And that's kind of usually how CMS does things, is they come out, they get alerted, and they come out with regs as fast as possible, and then they try fixing it later. They did this a little different. These regs that came out, this 199 pages, usually they'll go to the different associations, let them review it, get feedback, and then over time implement it. In this case, they basically just said, nope, these are our rules. This is what we're going with. And so these are actually in place. This becomes effective October 1st. So these are the guidelines. They are in place. We'll talk about how we're going to try changing them as carriers and associations during Lisa's section. But this is the rules as of today, saying that nothing changes. So if nothing were to change, this is what you guys as agents have to abide by. So there's two really extremely important things that are part of the guidelines. The first part is telephonic recording, okay? So, well, actually, let me step back. The way they actually wrote this also is the 199 pages is they group everyone together in this. So it's not just your call centers or what they call TPMOs, third-party marketing organization. It's everyone. So those companies that generate leads for agents, those that are cold calling members, the FMOs, the agents, the brokers, the call center, everyone is being grouped into this together. So in the definition, if you read the definition of what they consider an agent under this, it's everyone. If you talk to prospects and you're potentially selling them, you are grouped into this. So that's one of the things that we're going to be fighting that Lisa's going to probably talk a little bit about from an association standpoint is we really shouldn't be grouping independent agents with the call centers because they operate very differently. But that's the way CMS came out with these rules. So a lot of the questions we're getting are, what do I have to record? Because you have to start recording everything as of October 1st. So what am I recording? Well, this does not apply to in-person meetings. These are telephone meetings. So anything you do over the phone. Now, the issue here is the way they wrote these regs is it's not enrollment calls. So if you call a consumer or a prospect and you might talk to them for a couple minutes about benefits and then set up a meeting, any marketing conversations, plan discussions with prospects, or even your current members, you need to record. So for instance, Lisa's an agent. Lisa has a client named John Smith, been with her for 20 years. If she calls John Smith, hey, I just want to let you know about the changes of your plan, she has to record that conversation. So starting October 1st, every conversation you have with a prospect or client, you will have to record and store that recording. Right now, we're trying to figure that out, but it looks like for 10 years, just like your scopes. So that's where us as a carrier reps and agents and the associations gets a little frustrated with this is us as agents, independent agents, we might not be doing anything bad. The bad apples are the call centers. However, we're being grouped into this where we had to record our calls. Now, from a compliance standpoint, there is no rules written yet on, okay, me as a carrier, what am I supposed to do with this? Am I supposed to pull these calls from these agents? The only stipulation we've gotten from CMS so far is it's going to be all on the carriers. Okay, which means the carriers are going to have to, and I've got like 8 meetings next week already for this. We have to make our compliance way stricter with agents. What that means is probably a lot more secret shoppers, random audits, where I'm going to reach out to Lisa as an agent and say, hey, you wrote these 5 people last month with HAP. Can you send me, did you do this over the phone or did you do this in person? Well, she says, well, I talked to the client and then I set up a meeting and I did it in person. Well, that part where she talked to the client, I need those calls. It's going to be one of those things where carriers have now been put on the line where it's up to us. And we're going to have to be strict because we don't want to get our hands slapped by CMS. So part 1, all calls have to be recorded and kept on file for roughly 10 years. Part 2, and this is the one that makes me the most angry. And if I were in your shoes as an agent, this is the part I would fight heavily. And as an agent, your only voice is NAHU, the National Association of Health Underwriters. That's your political voice. That's how you get things changed. So if you are not a member, I'm going to push hard today that you join, because this next part is the scariest part to me. So According to these new regulations, 199 pages, and I can send the link to Jason. He can get it out to everyone. If you have some spare time and you want to read 199 pages, there's really only 2 that apply to what we're talking about today. The rest are all on the carriers. So 197 pages are how the carriers need to change what we do with our agents. So 2 pages apply to you guys. But the next part is a little scary. So it states that on every single marketing piece, so emails, marketing flyers, websites, anything where there's any plan information listed. So most of you probably have a website that says, hey, I represent these companies, or you are Jason and you have a website where this information is stored, maybe product information. You have to state this. We do not offer every plan available in your area. Any information we provide is limited to those plans we do offer in your area. Please contact Medicare.gov or 1-800-MEDICARE to get information on all your options. That part makes me nervous. This is the first sign I'm seeing from CMS where they're telling consumers, hey, don't work with this agent. Go to Medicare.gov, buy the plan. And that's the part as a association, NAHU, we're fighting hard on, because the last thing we want people doing is going to that website. We actually, from a carrier standpoint, have a lot of issues, CTM complaints about that website or that call center. It's surprising how many CTM complaints we get where CMS or Medicare.gov is the issue. But they're pushing and they're telling you as agents, you guys really should be pushing all your clients to the 1-800 number versus helping them themselves. So I think this is the first sign we're seeing where, I hate to say it, they're kind of trying to get consumers to go around agents. And that's why I think it's so important as agents, every one of you getting your voice heard by being part of the association. So that's kind of what I'm seeing happening right now, but I'll let Lisa, because I know we're fighting this hard. So Lisa, I know you want to kind of give some information on what the association is doing here.
Yes, thank you. And it is very scary. I was actually on vacation in Tennessee when I got sent the link, and there is 199 pages, and I was up till 4 o'clock in the morning reading it, and I sent Dustin a text message and said, what is this? So for the agents, it's on page 195 and 196 if you do want to read it. That pertains to us. The one thing I want to add is, I know in my area, in the Genesee County area, we have a lot of senior centers, and they have workers in there that are called the shift workers that are quote unquote volunteers that are helping beneficiaries enroll in Medicare plans, and they are exempt from this. And that absolutely drives me absolutely crazy. Here we are, licensed, certified, with everything that we can possibly be, and they are exempt. So with that being said, Madahu is working very closely with our Region 3 Vice President, Kathy Cooper, who some of you in Michigan, if you're in Michigan, you probably know her. And she is keeping in constant contact with NAHU in DC. We actually have a special task force that is going to CMS, and we're having meetings, and they're actually listening to us because we are trying to, well, NAHU, the special task force, is trying to get the definition changed from the third-party marketing organization, because as an independent agent, we are separate from that. And so they're trying to get that carved out. They have another meeting coming up at the end of next week to talk more about that. So Dustin said, now is the time that you need to be involved in the organization. Whether you're in Michigan, we have the Metro Detroit Association, we have the Southwest Association, we have the Grand Rapids, Northern Michigan. If you're outside of Michigan, I can find your local chapter for you. We have to be heard. And a great analogy was said to me recently. Whether you believe in unions or not, this is like our union for our industry. We participate in these things called Operation Shouts. So NAHU will send us a pre-filled out email that says, push this out to your congressmen, your senators, whatnot. Everything is done for you. You literally just type your name in. And the lawmakers in Washington, they do listen to us. They often come to NAHU and ask for our opinion and our feedback on certain things. One of the things that we were instrumental in getting passed was the no surprise bill. That was just passed, and I just read an article today that it's saved over $2 million in surprise billings. So we are getting things done in Washington. There are things on the books also for COBRA to be considered credible coverage, because right now COBRA is not considered credible coverage for someone going on Medicare. So we're working on that still. And then the biggest problem that we have right now as independent agents, and the scariest part, is this recording. And the last sentence that Dustin just read us, that we don't offer all plans available in the area. Well, what if we do? Here at Security First Benefits, where I work, we offer the plans in the area, but we're going to still have to put that on there. So we need more voices. We want to be loud and proud, if you will, and now is the time to join and be involved politically, and let your congressmen and your senators know there's all kinds of things that we do as a local chapter to be involved. We actually reach out to people that are running for office. We have people that come to us on the Metro Detroit side. I know Dustin has had plenty of politicians come to him and say, what do we need to know, for their running, their campaign. So let us know how we can help you, because that's what we're here for. Your local chapter goes to the state chapter, that goes to the national chapter, and we have our hands in all the pots. So we want to be your voice. We want you to be a part of it. There's lots of chapters that need help. We're all looking for people to be on committees and to be involved, and just the education part of it.
Yeah, Lisa, I would just add, not that this is supposed to be a push for joining the association, but right now, I mean, from an agent standpoint, I'm a carrier rep, and as a carrier rep, I have 3 associations that I'm part of that pushes things I want as a carrier, which is great for me in my job. However, as agents, you guys from the Medicare space, you only have this one association. And right now, we don't have that many voices in Michigan. There's about 200 out of the 3,000 Medicare agents here in Michigan that are part of the association. So when we go to the local politicians, or some of us are in DC, they're like, well, how many people are we talking that's part of this? Oh, we have 200. It's kind of a joke. So you don't even have 10% of your agent force that's part of this. And that's really what, as agents, if you don't want this recording, you don't want to have to state that on every single thing you do as an aide, that language, you need to fight back on this and get involved in the association so we can get our numbers up and push on that. So again, not trying to push the association, but right now as an agent, if I was an agent, I would push very, very hard to get this overturned.
And we'll give a chance to Lisa and you guys at the end to talk a little bit more about, either the association or, some of what HAP is doing to help counter this. One of the points of confusion, getting back to some of the rules that I think we should clarify. And, I saw a message from someone that says, and I think most of us, we've used different platforms. We've used our phones. We may have recording devices. There's apps. There's a lot of things out there for free and that do streamline and simplify this because of the smartphones we have today. But remember, we have a lot of agents that are still doing only face-to-face. We have a lot of agents that are working in clinics. They're in Walmarts. They're in different locations, or maybe doing live events, maybe educational events. There has been some confusion as to the recording of those. Could you guys speak to the rules behind, is it just phone and just virtual through like a Zoom platform, or is it live and in person and other formats?
So it's the Zoom calls and the telephonic calls. So anything you're doing where you're not sitting at the dinner table, basically, you need to record. The problem is, at least when I was an agent, when I would call someone, I would talk a little bit about the product just to get enough interest for them to actually want to meet with me. And at that point, if you mention, hey, this company has a $0 plan, we should sit down, it has to be recorded. So, but if I'm sitting at the dinner table, so I just scheduled an appointment, nothing else, no, I do not have to record those the way the rule is written currently. But again, they're not giving us any details around the recording. Can I use like Google I know Google has a service, or someone mentioned like their iPhone, I can just hit record. They haven't given us any details around that. The only details I'm aware of right now is if I am HAP and you did an enrollment for John Smith, if I come to you today, you must provide me that copy of that recording within 24 hours. So that's the only thing. Is I don't know how easy it would be if you're an agent that's seeing 1,000 clients a year. How do you store all those, and where do you store it?
So how will the carrier then, so let's say I'm doing a face-to-face at the kitchen table. I'm not required to record, but yet I'm still using your platform, or I'm using some sort of enrollment platform, maybe during the visit or when I get to my office after the visit. How do you as a carrier, let's say a complaint comes through, how do you as a carrier know that was face-to-face and not recorded, or done over the phone and should be recorded?
It's a great question, and that's a tough line. And I know you and I've had this conversation before about someone. So it's a tough. Most of the time, it's because they did a CTM complaint. Like every time I've had to pull recordings this past year, it's because the customer, the client, told us that this person called me and sold me over the phone. And I hate to say it, but a lot of times your customers are protecting themselves. They don't care so much sometimes about you as the agent. So if they're mad about a benefit, whether it's true or not, and I would tell you 95% of the time what they're saying is not true. But what they're saying, what they tell us is how we know what we're supposed to do. So if they tell us it was over the phone, we're going to reach out to you. And obviously, in every single case, I first will back the agent, just because I've had so much experience with wrong information. But if they tell me, hey, this person called me over the phone, and I call you as the agent, and you said, yeah, I did talk to him on the phone, we're going to need a copy of that recording. But outside of that, it's going to be very hard for us to know. And that's where CMS hasn't really come out with the how they're going to regulate this. And the other problem I have, Jason, is like our call centers, the Go Health, all those, they already do record their calls. So I really don't think this fixes the situation, the problem that we're all aware of.
Yeah. And I do want to answer both some questions I see coming through, but also these are related to questions that we deal with on a daily basis. Now, I'm going to speak more as the FMO. We're the sales organization. We're not compliance, but I will say this. First off, Dustin mentioned if you're calling to set an appointment or you're having some sort of interaction with the agent, that needs to be recorded. Let's be reasonable and let's think that through. Does Dustin or CMS know every point of conversation you had and that it should be recorded? The client's not going to call up and say, I'm complaining against this agent and I had 5 phone calls. Please go review those 5. It's not going to happen. So if you're asking, do I need to record every interaction? Maybe the rule says that, but I'll tell you, my version of that is, what do they care about? They really care about the sales process, what was spoken, what was asked, and was there an official enrollment? They want to confirm if there's a complaint, something else that happens. Do they really care that you set an appointment and they want to review that 60-second conversation? I don't think so. So let's everyone think through the intentions behind this and not go overboard with thinking you have to record everything. That's just me speaking from a real world. Now, does the compliance and does the maybe CMS rules state that? Maybe. But, well, probably yes, but I know how I would handle it. So I'm going to throw that out there so you guys can maybe, decide how, detailed you want to be in that area. The other thing
Jason, sorry to cut you off. I just want to say, I agree with you 100% on that. I don't know. I think the more concerning part to me is that language you have to put on all your marketing material. That's the part that as an agent, that scares me about telling them to call the 1-800 number or Medicare.gov more than the recording, because the recording I think is going to be very hard for them to regulate.
No, absolutely. And the other thing I want to clarify is, remember everyone, this is a CMS rule. This is not a Department of Insurance rule. I think everyone starts to lump everything together. Now, a carrier may come out and specifically state they're going to require agents to follow these CMS rules for all of their products, but that's by carrier. CMS only has jurisdiction over MA plans and PDP plans. Anything that falls under the MA banner, including PDPs, dual SNPs, iSNPs, you name it, that's what this rule is pertaining to. You can sell Medicare supplements without worrying about this. You can sell hospital indemnity, accident, life products. None of that is pertaining to this rule. So just keep that in mind when you start looking at the various products that you represent, and don't go overboard. The other thing that I saw asked here is what platforms, what should be used. There's a lot of them out there. And we as an FMO are spending a lot of time working with the carriers, working with Madahu to figure out what is compliant, what's HIPAA compliant, what's CMS compliant, how to store those, how to, if they need to be retrieved, how is that to be done? Even though we want to be ahead of this, until we have some clarification, until we understand some of these rules better, it's really difficult to point you to a specific platform, a specific service. As a matter of fact, we were getting ready to send out a list of different recording devices and options that could be used. And we pulled back because we realized we just don't have enough clarification from CMS to say, yes, go use this or go use that. So if you're thinking like, I need to go out and get something, remember, don't panic. We're going to be working on this. We're going to be keeping you updated. But when we have some clarification is when some of those options will start to be introduced by the carriers and also by us as an FMO. One other question I did see, I know there's a lot coming up here. This webinar here is being recorded. So this will actually be put onto our YouTube channel, possibly by the end of today, at latest Tuesday. And you can certainly go view this again. You can forward that link to other agents if they want to hear this and if they have questions. And if you're not in the state of Michigan, I know Lisa's here specifically from Madahu, we will make sure we get you information on your local chapter so that you can get involved.
Yeah, I put that in the chat box too. If anybody is not in Michigan, if you go to nehu.org, you can click on join now and it will take you through the application, and then you can go and pick a chapter that's closest to your hometown.
Okay, excellent. So those were a couple points of confusion I've been running into. Dustin and Lisa, anything else you would like to add to the rules? I love your point about the fact that the disclaimer, and I will mention one other thing from an FMO perspective there. It does make sense. If you're telling these people to go back to Medicare, that's a direct enrollment for Medicare and for the carrier. They love those. There's no commissions attached. There's no agent. There's no FMO. And that's bad for us as an industry. And it's bad for your clients.
Right.
How many times have we heard them given bad advice from the source, Medicare?
Yep.
So we want to, again, do everything we can to avoid that. The other thing related to that is obviously any materials that we produce for agents, we will be fully compliant. We will have those disclaimers on there because, again, we create a lot of marketing pieces and marketing tools for our agents. And the other point here too is be careful, because I know the FMO world. FMOs are going to use this to come to you and say, you need to contract with every carrier so you can put on your disclaimer, I have every carrier. Don't do that. That's not realistic. As much as I'd love to say, hey, come to us and get contracted with everything, it's not benefiting you. It's not benefiting the client. You're going to have to be certified with every carrier. And the other problem and risks you run just from, again, purely the FMO perspective, first off, some of the carriers, if you don't write with them, they will terminate you 6 to 12 months later. So you will no longer have that carrier. So then there goes your every carrier statement. The other part is you cannot be certified with every carrier, because Lisa might be certified with every carrier in Genesee, but it doesn't mean she's certified with every carrier in Shiawassee or some other county. The other part is some carriers do not use agents. So you can't contract and certify with those carriers. So it is almost impossible on a local and on an expanded scale to be contracted with every agent, every certification. So do not get duped into, hey, come to us. We're going to get you contracted with every carrier. It's not going to work, potentially short term, and definitely will not work long term.
Yeah, I would say for the language, there's no way around it the way it's written right now. Like for us, we won't contract with these call centers that are the Joe Namaths, we refuse. And so they're going to have to put this language just because we're refusing to contract with them. Someone asked a great question, because I've heard this one multiple times the last 2 weeks. Well, is the font size defined? Because I'll just put it as size 2 so no one can read it. And CMS does require a 12-point font, so you can't really get around that one. Business cards, I mean, I don't, unless you're, I guess, putting plan information on your business card, I don't see that you would have to do anything with your business card. It's basically marketing. So what do you consider marketing? In CMS terms, it's anything that mentions carrier information is considered marketing. Or if you're using it to prospect, like a lead generating company, they would have to put that on there. But outside of that, I think business cards wouldn't be impacted by this. Or like if you have a personal brochure, I think you're fine. But it's really the websites where you mention information about, hey, call me, I represent these 4 carriers or whatever, where you're going to have to include that language. And I hate the part, and I agree 100% with Jason that they're pushing to the business to go direct from a local carrier. It hurts us significantly because one is the nationals are the ones that have the best recognition with the CMS call center. So if you call CMS, they're going to push the nationals because that's the call center. That's who they know. But also our retention on that block is just so bad. So for us, we want agents. Our retention is like triple what it is for the direct business. So not happy about it, but that's why we're going to fight it hard with NHU. And I know, I would hate to say this, but I would say your national carriers are not fighting this because it really doesn't impact them. It's probably good for them, actually. It's the local carriers and the agents that are really hit hard by this new rule.
Yeah, absolutely. One question that I think is very relevant here, Lisa and Dustin, is besides the website, where else would the disclaimer go? Obviously, we've established letters, emails, anything soliciting that individual and presenting Medicare information, not necessarily a business card, but anywhere else that this disclaimer and font size would be required.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, carriers are exempt from these new rules. So, as usual, the carriers are not impacted by the recordings or the language. So, I mean, there's a lot of other things we have to do from a compliance standpoint, but this does not apply to us.
Okay, good. Well, maybe what we can do is try to open this up. Remember, everyone, I understand maybe you have particular situations and circumstances. We understand they exist. They're happening all the time. Dustin said there's 40,000 of them. So let's, keep it to specific questions you might have for Dustin, for Lisa. And if you'd like to comment or ask a question live, raise your hand and I'll try to open up some of your, allow you to talk. And then if you don't want to chat live, please feel free to, again, to type in the message box and we're answering those as we go. So does anyone would like to ask a live question?
Can't, but I do see another question that came in. Does this affect producers working from home? Yes. I mean, if you're calling people and doing enrollments over the phone or having a conversation about plan benefits, doesn't matter where you're calling from, this applies to you. It's the agents that do everything in person, like at the Walmart kiosk or at the kitchen table, that the recording does not apply. But however, any emails, brochures, or websites, Facebook, anything like that, you'd have to have the other language on.
Okay. Looks like Brian, we've got you here. Go ahead, Brian.
So it's my understanding that the regulation from CMS is actually a law, and that the only way that it can be modified is either by CMS or by Congress. Is that true?
Yes, that is correct. So they, like I said, they did this very different than how they've done things in the past, where before they get any feedback, they just passed it. So this is, as of today, the way it stands, this is a law that's in effect and it starts October 1st. And we're hoping, and I'm using the word hoping, that either NHU as a whole, because I know they're talking to them on a weekly basis right now, can get the language changed. Again, it's a law, so that's not an easy thing to do. And as we all know, the government doesn't move very fast on things.
Nathan just asked a question too. I know that this might be an impossible question to answer, but do you see this sticking long term? As it is right now, yes. Again, our Medicare task force And NAHU is meeting with them, like Dustin said, on a weekly basis, trying to get the language changed, especially for the independent agent. But as it states right now, and as it is right now, this is here for the long haul.
Yeah, yeah. We're hoping to fight it.
Marilyn, it
impact.
looks like you have a question.
So if I email a client a silver script PDP brochure, don't talk about the plan or anything, just say I'm going to send you a brochure and we'll talk about it when I meet with you. I have to put that verbiage on my email?
That is correct. It's considered a marketing because you're sending a marketing flyer. So yes, it would have to be in your email. Again, how do we audit that? I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks,
I
Marilyn.
asked a question, if writing a med sup and a Part D, does that apply to the Part D? Yes, it does.
Yeah, so what I would answer that, Scott, is, maybe similar to the scope of appointment or anything else you might be presenting along with a med sup sale. Don't go beyond the scope, don't go beyond the rules. And in that case, what I would recommend is maybe do the Medicare supplement sale at one time and maybe then finish up the PDP portion and record that.
Someone asked about e-apps. I guess it depends on the e-app. If you're just sending out, I guess, an application and having no conversation with them at all, then no, you could probably get away with it. But if you're posting like sometimes on Facebook, people will post advertisements, then go to this website. In that ad now as an agent, you're gonna have to post the language. So I don't know. I would say it's somehow, some way, you're probably gonna have to language. Again, I'm gonna throw out this. It's like Jason said, I have no clue from a carrier standpoint how we're gonna audit this. And usually when they come out with these rules, they tell us later that, hey, this is what we want you doing. And like I said, I'm meeting a lot next week with my chief compliance officer, and I have a feeling they're probably going to want us to do secret shopping. Because right now we do secret shopping, but it's very, very rare. Hate to admit that, but I have a feeling they're going to have us doing it pretty regularly if this doesn't go away.
Another good question, Charlie, I like your line of thinking here. What's the penalty?
So I will give an example of this because I did this 3 years ago. So as a local carrier, we don't put up with it. So once an agent violates something that we can prove is a violation, we terminate their contract and renewal stop instantly. I had to do this with an agent a few years ago. It was a pretty severe situation where they were lying to their clients. And so we pulled their contract. We usually don't go to the state on those. It's too much of a hassle. So we just will actually terminate you with cause, which means you no longer receive renewals. So for some of you that have big blocks, it's the question of how much risk do you want to take? And that's probably what your question is.
Well, Dustin, how about though the other version of that? Obviously, I think if somebody's doing something completely inappropriate, it is obvious. You guys have to take swift action. That's important. But let's say somebody is doing things properly, doing things right, and did not record that session, and there's a minor complaint, then how would that be treated? I'm guessing you'd be reasonable and not step into the termination realm at that point.
Yeah, I think it depends on what it is. Like if it's say, hey, you know what, you didn't record these calls. And I like I said, I had this happen a couple weeks ago. It's a slap on the hand, don't do it again. But then you get that second chance, and if it happens again, that's when the problem's gonna, they'll terminate the contract. But yeah, I mean, if it's like recording calls, you forgot to do it. I mean, I was an agent, I understand it, and obviously a lot of us are gonna push it, including myself. That the key is not to get caught twice in a row.
Yeah, good point. So let's see, we have a couple other comments or questions here. We answered those. What is the penalty? So the recording question, the answer is it would have to be recorded, housed somewhere, probably HIPAA compliant, and then be able to be produced or reproduced if asked for. That is where we run into a lot of the issues, Gloria, and we need some direction, because what forms of technology and housing these recordings is HIPAA compliant? Does the device you record it to before you upload it have to be HIPAA compliant? If you need to produce it for the carrier to review, Dustin said in the past, Many times those files are too large to be transferred. So how do you get the file to the carrier for an actual review? Those are all questions we don't have answers to. And so the technology does exist. Housing that on hard drives or other sources do exist. We just don't know where to give you exact direction yet until we get some clarification. And hopefully by the time we get some clarification, maybe some of these rules, such as it being your client, maybe we won't have to worry about it. Obviously now who's working on some of those. I will actually be June 6th down at the National Medicare Conference, and I'm sure we'll be meeting with individuals from CMS, from the carriers. I'm sure this is going to be a big discussion. So hopefully after that conference, we may have some clarification and some answers to these as well.
And NAHU has their annual convention coming up at the end of June as well, down in Austin, Texas. And I'm sure that this will be a topic of conversation there too. So hopefully we'll even have more answers by then.
Nathan, to your question, yes, we are working on technology. We already have technology between CRM systems, our website where our agents can log into their own private portal. We're working on a number of sources that could help store these. We just don't know yet, due to some of these unanswered questions, we don't know what would be compliant. Now, Dustin has said this in one of his other meetings, which I thought was great. Their Ascend platform does have that capability. So, if that becomes available, maybe as you're writing an HAP case, you can do it through Ascend. It will be fully recorded. It will be stored automatically with the enrollment, and you're good. So, we may see even our enrollment platforms start to include these to make things much easier for you to record, store, and also easier for the carrier to retrieve.
I'm seeing another question here, and this kind of goes back to what you said at the beginning, like what information needs to be recorded. And it's basically any conversation where you talk plan information has to be recorded, whether they're a prospect or a client. So the question is, if they're a client and they ask you questions, does that have to be recorded? The answer is yes. Again, I don't know how we'd ever know that unless the client themselves says, hey, I talked to this person on June 5th at 3 o'clock. And then we go to pull that call from you and you don't have it. But again, would that ever happen? I don't know. So it's that big question is, and again, this is what NHU is pushing is, it's one thing to regulate the call centers that are used to recording every call center or every question. An independent agent, I don't know how we get you guys to record every single conversation unless you invest in that software. And again, how do you prove it?
Right, absolutely. One other question here, and we're going to wrap up in just about 3 minutes here. So just to give everyone a warning, appreciate all the great questions. Joanne asked, typically we send our clients a notice of open enrollment and send a form for them to update their RX needs. How does this rule affect this?
Same thing. That's considered a marketing. Even though it's a client and you're just notifying them of AEP or whatever, you would have to put the disclaimer in there about that. You don't represent all plans and blah, blah, blah.
Yep. And Joanne, again, for all of you, I know many of you are familiar with some of the marketing services we offer, but if you have marketing material, letters, if we're creating it for you, anything that is required to go out to your client and have those details, we will be putting all of those disclaimers in there for you to make sure that you are fully compliant. They will be in the correct font. If you have letters currently you want to send to us and have them update those for you, we'd be happy to do that as well.
Someone asked the question about the Joe Namath. Why don't they just go after them? CMS is not known for going after individual agencies. I wish they would, but they usually do everything as a whole. So when they come out with rules, and Lisa and I joked about this almost a year ago that, when they come down, they're going to come down hard, and it's not going to be the Joe Namath. It's going to be every single person that sells, and that's the problem. And that's why that association is so important, because they're able to fight back and hopefully, I'm keep my fingers crossed, get some of this stuff changed. But yeah, they don't do anything at an individual level, and that's kind of one of the problems with CMS.
Yep, absolutely. And thank you, David. And yeah, definitely look forward to meeting you at the conference in a couple of weeks. We have another comment here, and I think this speaks to something I've heard you say before, Dustin, this doesn't scare off the people who are doing it inappropriately. They're really already walking over that line, and they continue to. The call centers are recording it, but you've even said call centers, it's very difficult to even understand those calls and to properly know whether something was done inappropriate or not. So they're kind of skating around it currently already.
Yeah, I honestly, like, I've pulled calls from these call centers, and again, it just doesn't do anything. It really doesn't. I don't think this fixes the problem, and NAHU is well aware that this has no change. They already have the language on their website, so it doesn't do anything. So they're gonna have to figure out a different direction. I don't have an answer what that is, but I will tell you, every regional plan in the entire country. I just was in Vegas for a meeting with all the regional carriers. We're all fighting this, along with the associations for agents. It's just not something that happens overnight, and that's kind of one of the issues.
Yep, absolutely. Well, again, we appreciate everyone's time. We're going to have to wrap here for time's sake. We thank you for coming out as attendees. Dustin, Lisa, thank you for your time. Maybe with these last couple minutes, Dustin, if you just want to spend a moment maybe plugging HAP, and Lisa, you can do the same for Madahu.
Yeah, I can kind of say it in a few words, but as a regional carrier, the biggest thing is we support our agents, and that's right now extremely important in the way this industry is going. So if I were to throw out anything, I'm not going to say just sell HAP, but I would say just sell local, sell the regional carriers. And Jason, you mentioned earlier the great news: we are expanding into West Michigan this upcoming year with the big announcement on, I think it was yesterday or the day before, about our contract with Spectrum Hospital System. So pretty excited of that. A lot more details to come on there, but that will help all product lines for HAP expand on the west side. So 2023 should be a good year for us. We're excited. And again, we care about the agents. Everyone on my team was an agent at one point, so we know what you guys are going through. We know we don't like these rules, so we're going to fight with you too. But support the local carriers. They're going to support you, and that's my pitch.
Yeah, thank you. No, that's perfect. That is exciting news. And Lisa, how about yourself? I know we have a conference coming up and some other exciting things.
Yes, we do. So September 15th, mark your calendars. Even those of you that are out of the state of Michigan, we are having our Medicare Summit on September 15th. It's back at Motor City Casino in Detroit. We have a day jam-packed full of everything. Of course, we'll be talking about this. By then, we're going to have some final rules, probably because October 1st will only be a couple weeks away. But we're going to have the Social Security Administration there. We're going to have a coach, a career coach there, and then some marketing people are going to come in and teach us how to market a little bit better. The whole schedule is not done, but those are just like the three things that I can think of right now. But if you're not a member of your local chapter, you need to become a member. Your voice is heard when, especially when we're all in one. So make sure that you join your local chapter, nahu.org, and you can sign up today.
Awesome. Thank you.
Can I just say one thing, Jason?
Yeah.
Just because I want to make a joke to end this. So Joe Namath will not be there. However, if you're like me, you can Google the company that he represents, and then you can search for their principal agent. And then his phone number is listed in the state site for licensing. And like me, because I'm mean like this, you can just robo-dial him all day long and send him emails. So that's what I've been doing for the last week. It's been fun. I don't think the principal likes it, but it is a joke I've been playing, seeing how many calls I can send his way to that principal agent.
Oh, that's funny. Good suggestion there. Well, hey, again, I want to thank everyone for the great questions, the positive feedback. As we learn more, we will continue to do these. We will bring you the most up-to-date information we can, whether it be from technology solutions to adjustments to the rules, both from the FMO as well as the carrier and Madahu standpoint. So keep your eyes open for additional information. This is not the last time we will address this big change. And certainly if you have additional questions, contact our team. We'll also be reaching out to send you additional details if you'd like to get involved. If you have more questions, that's what we're here for. So again, thank you guys for coming out. Dustin, Lisa, thank you for your time. Very productive meeting. Again, this will be recorded and this will be up on the Insurance Advisors Direct YouTube channel if you'd like to view it again. And certainly we encourage everyone to reach out to us to ask more questions as you have those, because I know we couldn't get to everyone today. So have a great rest of your day. Everyone enjoy a hopefully beautiful long weekend, and we'll end our meeting here.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone. Thanks, Jason.
Thank you. Bye now.